This one, and then I'll take the audio from.
Yeah, it's not like we don't get the trailer, get the diesel, generators.
I guess.
I'm Jan.
Well, maybe
West.
Jordan can. So whatever was on his, so our screens aren't in, so we're just now. But we're both in the Zoom meeting, you're in the Zoom, right?
I wasn't going to be in it. I think it's okay as long as.
We're reading about the.
Let us pray. Gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord God, for another beautiful day that you've given us, Lord, for the breath of life. Well, without it, God, we would not be here, Lord, but we thank you, God, that we're here, God, to kuka, to talk story, Lord, to learn, Lord, to glean, God. Help us, Lord, in everything that we do, God, that we be respectful to one another, to agree, to disagree, to speak in humbleness and in respect, God. But we are Hawaiians and we are Kanaka, Lord God. And we don't need to shout. We need to be heard. Everything we do, God, all that be pleasing unto you. And this time of Thanksgiving, Lord, we have much to be thankful for. We ask, God, that you bless those who are much less fortunate than us. We have been served by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, God, through our Prince Kuhio, Lord, and the many visions that he has for us. Lord God, help us, Lord, in everything that we do, God, that we be able to be moved forward, Lord, in unity, God. Where there is unity, Lord, there is power. Lord, we thank you, Lord, as we continue, Lord, to go on in our meeting. And when we depart from this place, may it never be from your presence, oh God. In your precious name, Jesus, we ask and thank you. Amen.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to me. It's an important meeting. My name is Judy Patola. I'm a planner at Hawaiian Homelands. I have other colleagues with me from Hawaiian Homelands. Nancy McPherson is manning the virtual attendance, and Cherie Pa'anana is in the back helping. She's our water specialist. I'm just a regular land use planner, but I'm born and raised in Wai'anae, and I still live in Wai'anae behind Tamura's. So I always like to do the meetings in my district. We also have our consultant engineer who's going to be doing the bulk of the presentation tonight. His name is Jordan. I'm not gonna have Fing from AECOM, and so he's got all of that good information to impart. But my part tonight, I just want to set the context. well, why are we doing this? And I want to put to bed, why are we, why do we have to comply when it comes to cesspools? So let's, you can follow along, you have the PowerPoint. Why are we focusing on cesspools? Okay, so cesspools are ancient, right? This is how we did it before. This is an old technology. It's a simple technology. It's a hole in the ground. It doesn't have a liner. It doesn't have treatment. That's all it is. It's a hole in the ground. And we're pretty much packed in here now. So there's holes in the ground that's next to our streams, next to our coastlines, above our aquifers. And at the order of magnitude where we are now, it's like seeping in and getting into our drinking water. It's getting into our oceans, right? So, what happens is all those pathogens, I'm learning a lot, bacteria, right, viruses, go into the dirt and hit the groundwater or hit a stream, and they start coming out, going into the ocean. So it's posing problems for our human health, right? Our ecosystems, our groundwater, our nearshore environments, our coastlines. Now, I am born and raised in Wai'anae. So I know when it gets hot, I am always in that water, right? I mean, I come back from work, I'm in the water. I set my problems in that water, but now I'm scared to go in the water. I've had so many friends that have gone in that water with just a little bit cut, and they're in the hospital not even 24 hours later, in there for 3-4 months because of the what do you call that, flesh-eating disease and all that gets in because they went swimming in a place where we always went swimming in. So how do we know that it's to the point that we have a problem? That's how we know. And it's not just one friend. I mean, there's so many people that I know that have gone into this water, the waters that we know and love, and have come out sick. And really, flesh-eating disease is nothing, is serious. And they're in a hospital for months. So this is what's happening. These pathogens are coming through. And thank goodness, the state legislature in 2017 decided we gotta bite this bullet. We gotta do something about it. We cannot just let this go on and on. And so they passed this law that is huge. It's requiring all cesspools in the state of Hawaii, all cesspools in the state of Hawaii, to be properly closed. That means dried out, closed, sealed, and be replaced, converted to another system that is acceptable to DOH. By January 1st, 2050. So we have some time. Everybody's freaking out because have you seen the cost of a septic tank these days? Okay, I don't know how many of you have 30,000 laying around or 20,000 laying around just because. But a lot of people are worried, and I had to put this data up because I'm a data nerd. But this underscores the whole problem right here. So if you look at the housing units, number of cesspools, I just did a quick percentage and I ordered it, right? So Big Island is in trouble, right? Big Island has 60% of their homes are on cesspools. They got a problem. And a lot of our beneficiaries, a lot of our lessees are also in that same group. Kauai, that's a really high number. Kauai is 46%, Molokai 30%. Oahu is actually the best, we get 30%. That is cesspools, because we're so dense already. We need, it wasn't working. But I want to underscore this number. 88,000 cesspools in the state of Hawaii. 88,000 in a closed island environment. I cannot even think. 88,000 plugged down any kind of which way, wherever they're going to put a house. 88,000. That is what we're dealing with. What we are doing is being at the forefront of taking care of Malama man, right? It's really our kuleana. I want to step up and say, Hawaiians get this. We understand that this needs to be addressed, that our island is fragile and limited. And that everybody has Kuleana, but we'll stand first on that line to defend our land and waters. Because that's how precious, necessary this is to us. So I want to make this plea to you, so we all on the same page on this. It's not why cesspools, why we gotta be required to do this. And by the way, this ain't PHL now. The state of Hawaii legislature that required this, not us. We're just trying to figure it out like you folks. But I want us to be together then. This is something that we need to do as a community. This is something we need to do as a Hawaiian Homestead community, right? As individuals and a community. So this is the context of why we're talking about cesspools. And why we're talking about it today is because 2050 is kind of a long ways away, but it's not if you have to navigate all of these things and figure out how, from the department, we're trying to figure out how can we leverage our role, as a trust, as a government agency, to secure funding so that you folks don't have to figure out how you're gonna pay for this, right? We think that you guys can pay for maintenance, but to get it compliant, to get that thing closed properly, we need to make sure that we do it properly, not that your uncle did it for you and you know what I mean, that we need to do it properly. And that your new system is done properly. So we're trying to figure out how we're gonna do this big lift. And I gotta say, I think you can change that slide. So 80,000 cesspools, big lift, huge lift, right? And huge costs all the way around. I can't even think. Okay, so my family owns land in Kohala, we're on cesspools. Me and my sisters are trying to figure out how we're gonna do this. We don't have Hawaiian lands. So the takeaway I want you, lucky you live in Homestead. Because if you didn't, like all the rest of the private landowners are having to navigate this on their own.
Yes. Oh,
So I want to mahalo with Dan. So not only is she saw this is gonna be a problem, and she reached out to agencies and was asking, who can help us? Somebody's gonna help us do this. She reached out early. And she was like, we need help, already we know. And she got EPA to say, you know what, we're here to help you. We have a program to do this. And we got consultants that we pay to do the work in your community for free. That's Jordan, right? So because of her inquiry, you guys got this technical assistance for free. And because of her inquiry, DHL got you right on the coattails and say, oh yeah, we better figure this out, right? So we didn't push, she pushed it, and we're like, okay, we're gonna take advantage of the opportunity that she provided for us, because we got plenty of homesteaders that are gonna be in the same boat. So mahalo to you, Jan. And so that's the context of, there's plenty of agencies involved from the federal, state, and county level. It's has to be coordinated. But basically, lucky you live Homestead, that's all I want to say, and mahalo to Jan for her inquiry, mahalo to EPA for agreeing to help us. So as a result, you guys are a pilot project. You guys are the project that we're gonna figure out the way forward, the best way forward. We figure out how we communicate with our beneficiaries, because we're gonna have to do this in all of our homestead communities. So we're gonna be working on some kinks. It's not like you're guinea pig, but it's just because you're at the forefront, right? You're the first one to book it through on something like this. So we're gonna be there to, help to guide this. Okay. So, long introduction, but I wanna make sure we set correctly in the context of this meeting. So this meeting is the third time that we're getting together with this community to talk about this issue. And they also went to site visit and we checked stuff out, but tonight we're going to hear the results. So just to make sure everybody's on the same page, we're gonna have a brief summary of what the project, what the project is, what we've done so far. But the main item is number 2, to present the findings and recommendations for cesspool conversion. So tonight you will leave knowing what your lot and your neighbor's lot and all your other friends have to do to convert. Okay, this is the time that they're gonna reveal the solution for each and every one of you. I gave you guys a color, right? Because it's gonna be different solutions, and last time people got confused because they were talking about this alternative, that alternative. Just focus on your color, that's what pertains to you. There'll be other options that don't pertain to you, so don't get confused with that. We'll talk about next steps, and we'll also have a chance to talk, sorry, after, ask questions, discuss what you just heard. So just some meeting Juliana kind of stuff. We have this meeting also on virtual platform, so bear with us because it's one thing to do a virtual meeting and an in-person meeting, but to do it together is a whole nother thing. So bear with us. Nancy's minding that part. You virtual attendees, if we're doing the presentation, you have questions or concerns, put it in the chat. When we have the open discussion, I promise you can unmute yourself and you can talk in your own voice. Color code is very important because we're talking solutions tonight. And you need to walk out, promise, if you're confused before you walk out, don't walk out yet. Get clear, because should be, when you leave tonight, you're gonna know what your lot has to do, what you have to do. Awesome. And there's always the issue of the payment. I'm gonna tell you, because your first set of blocks, right? What we're trying to do at the department is our intention is to fund all that conversion, to fund closure and conversion for every single one of you. That's our intention. We're gonna be looking for funds, we're gonna be leveraging funds to do that. Maintenance will probably be your Juliana. And you can ask me, well, what is the maintenance on that? But I'm sure Jeremy will cover it. But we'll get you there. We don't know how yet. We don't have any funds yet, but that's our intention. Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of mini handouts. Make sure that you have them so you can go home and read about this stuff. We have the presentation slides. We have the very, very important map. That's all the solutions. So now you have in your hands, not only your solution, but you can see what your neighbors and your aunties, everybody got to do. You can tell them, because a lot of people, there's over 400 lessees. A lot of them haven't been coming. They don't know anything about this. So you can go and let them know, and you have the map to say, where you've got to do this. Okay, so that's important to get that information out. We have fact sheets about this project, the pilot project. We have fact sheets about the EPA, we call it COAG. It's Closing America's Wastewater Access Gap. That's a program that we're getting this technical assistance under. And it's actually a preliminary engineering report. If you deal with feds, like they all have to do this for every project, they have to do this. So this is the document that's going to allow us to apply for funds, for grant funds. And so it's important that you guys keep up with that. Jordan's the technician on that, that's helped create that. And basically you have the draft version. We have also notes from our previous last two meetings, FYIs, we can catch up if you weren't there. And we have those half comment sheets if you want to write down your questions. I hope we can just talk openly, but you know, if you don't want to forget, you can use that as scrap paper to write your questions out. Okay, a little bit more content. So this is a heavy lift. It's called the village, right? That's gonna come to bear. I put the Homestead Association, Jan Mokepa as president in the middle of this. Because what's happening is there's all these agencies around and organizations that have been coming to that have, I guess, their own kuleana of helping out, and then they're showing up too. So with EPA in this COAG program, they contracted ERG and AECOM. Jordan is here under AECOM. right? So this is like all the EPA's kind of consultants are bringing to the project. On this side, this is DHL. So I'm in the planning office. We're all in the planning office. We also have our land development division that actually does the design and construction of the sewer lines and infrastructure. That's another division. So that's our two divisions here. We also, Nancy actually is the one that liaisons with DOH. Because ultimately, the law says that DOH is the one that determines what is acceptable system, right? And so DOH is running the show in terms of like this compliance. This is their thing. So she's been attending meetings and keeping us in their loop.
Cherie too.
Huh?
Cherie too.
And Cherie, okay. Cherie's our water one, so they both been attending. And then we have community or associations and organizations. Carmen's Kingdom Pathways, the Plastic Collaborative, the Hawaii Rural Water Association. They're each doing the different things, like water testing at Pokai Bay, for instance. So if there's any question about contaminants, right? The Hawaii Rural Water Association, they were the ones that actually advocated to EPA that we get this TA. So lots of organizations coming to help you folks in the middle of this. This is not just a one thing. It's a lot of resources coming to bear to do this heavy lift. Okay, I think that was a lot of introduction, but I hope we're on the same page so that we can start off with this important information that Joy is presenting to us, yeah? Mahalo for your attention. All right, you want me to get my thumb? Okay, good.
Thanks, Julie.
Yeah.
I think Julie covered like half of my job on that one. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm Jordan Famey. I work with AECOM. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I think this is my second time in this room, and previous to that, I was able to do a site visit with Jan and tour the community. So working through the steps to figure this out together. So grateful to be here. Also, I wanted to check with the virtual team. Nancy, are we good on that?
They can see the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think they can hear?
I hope so.
Okay. We can
I
get
think so.
like a thumbs up or something. That would be nice.
Oh,
glad you guys-
got thumbs
Oh,
up.
awesome. All right, great. So everybody can hear, can see. We know why we're here. We heard a little bit about the Closing America's Wastewater Access Gap program, the EPA program. I also wanted to add that this is not any part of an enforcement mechanism or anything like that. The EPA isn't enforcing the cesspool conversion mandate. It's really just about funding the technical assistance. So that's really what our focus is here. But it will help us ultimately meet that mandate that is with the state. Okay. So the purpose of this project as a whole is to provide technical assistance to the community for planning the infrastructure improvements to convert cesspools. That's the overarching purpose we're going for here. Specific objectives are observing the infrastructure, knowing what the needs of the community are, understanding what's the layout, what could physically work for us here. Listening to the community input, concepts, preferences, evaluating viable options, which include cost estimates and schedule. We'll go over the cost estimates tonight. And then ultimately is to provide a report. That's that preliminary engineering report, and that will support the funding application that Julie was mentioning. So that's really the end product that we're going for here before we get to have a new sewer system or something like that. Okay. So today, some of the key things that we're going over here, I think this is actually supposed to be meeting number 3, was to summarize the project background and the history. So how did we get to where we are today? And then mainly we want to share the findings of the analysis that we did for the cesspool conversions for Wai'anae Valley Homestead. Understand community thoughts and concerns. So we'll want to hear from you what you think about all this and how these fit in with you. And then describe what are the next steps to keep this progress moving forward. And questions and answers, we'll have time for that, for sure. Okay. Project history. So this all started, well, I guess where we'll start the discussion was from the first conversations mapping. That was, I believe that was at the library. I think that was at my library, yeah. Yeah, January 2024. After that, there was the first community meeting, which was in February. That was right when we got a stop work for this project because of federal government. So I couldn't attend that one. But then there was another conversations mapping that was in May 2025. And then the last time we were here was June 26, 2025. Where we laid out potential alternatives and we got a lot of input from everybody. And we're following up to that. But something that keeps coming up over and over at all these meetings are, what's it going to cost? What are the questions about the technology? Questions about the process? How do we can I just build something now? And then environmental impacts. So those are some of the recurring themes. There's some more specific questions I want to talk about in a bit, but that you all have asked in the last couple meetings, but those are some of the key themes that keep coming up, and we want to address those so they're not lingering. All right, so yeah, some of the things that came out, concerns that came out of the June meeting, resiliency, any alternatives need to be resilient. We don't want to be at the risk of electrical outages. If we get a hurricane and we lose power, we don't want to be dead in the water, right? So water reuse was another concept. People wanted to know, so there's some way that we can do something where the water that goes down the drain can be recycled and we can use it to water plants or irrigate or do a fire break or something like that. So we looked into that. We talked a lot about space requirements for septic tanks and leach fields and how much space people have and how much space we think it would take up. And we thought a lot about that as we developed alternatives, evaluated them. And then on funding and the project scope. So where does the fund, who's funding what? What do I have to pay for? What do you have to pay for as a lessee? And what is DHHL going to pay for? So we were looking at the sewer lateral and the plumbing connection to the house and the cesspool closure. So those are the key elements of any project to convert the cesspool. And like Julie had mentioned, is that the main intent is that DHHL is going to pay for that. It's not 100% guarantee right now, but we're all charging for that, and we're going to get as much funding as we can to cover that, so people don't have to pay for that capital improvement project. So funding is not really the main point of the meeting tonight, but we just wanted to share that as a team, the team is looking at the different types of funding that's out there. There's a number of different sources. Clean Water State Revolving Fund, USDA are two of the key ones. But in order to do that, there's a lot of coordination that's going on right now between the Department of Health and EPA. And we're also working with the city and county of Honolulu. All right. Expectations for this project. So this is not a construction project. I would love it if we could get out and build it now, but that's just not the way these things work. We need to take it one step at a time, plan it out, make sure we're all on the same page, get the funding, and then we can build it. as part of a different project. This is a planning study, and we need the study to support the funding. Okay, so a few acronyms. I'm gonna try not to use acronyms too much, but I probably will. So we thought that we ought to lay out a few up front. PER, you hear me say that? That means preliminary engineering report. That's the main study. IWS means individual wastewater system. This could be a cesspool, septic tank, aerobic treatment unit, something that's on your lot, that's treating your sewage and dispersing it into the ground on your lot. DOH is the Hawaii Department of Health. You see WWTP, that means wastewater treatment plant, like Wai'anae wastewater treatment plant. CCH means City and County of Honolulu. I think we'll always be talking about the Department of Environmental Services, whom we may have on this call. We've been coordinating with throughout this project. And then CAWAG is Closing America's Wastewater Access Gap. That's the EPA program that's supporting this whole study. All right. So this is, looking back, a little more history, looking back at what we did and what we did at the previous meetings. So we had the community meeting one in February 2025. We had a site visit with Jan, myself, Destin over here with AECOM, and Tim, who couldn't make it tonight, also an engineer with AECOM. And then we had the second community meeting. In August, we submitted the draft preliminary engineering report. And then here we are today at this community meeting. We want to share the results of it. We want to hear what everybody has to say. And then looking ahead in February 2026, we're going to have another meeting to cover the final engineering report. We'll have a fully developed project that we submit to the Department of Health, and that'll go with the funding application. Okay.
I didn't explain to everybody, in your packet, you have the summary PER that the community engineering report. So I just wanted to point that out, that we have that. It's not the rest are one pages, but the one that's more than one page that has their community outline. That's the summary preliminary engineering report that you're referring to.
Yeah, so that stapled report, so we took the big report that we did, that's like, it's pretty thick, and we tried to boil it down as much as we could, and it's something that's not gonna put everybody to sleep too much, something that you could flip through pretty quick and get the gist of it. Okay. So what's up on the screen right now is the project area. That's the homestead. This figure came from a cesspool assessment that DHHL did, I want to say a couple of years ago. And it has colors for all the parcels, not to be confused with the colors that Julie has been mentioning and that she kind of assigned to everybody when they walked in. But this was DHHL trying to understand who has sewer, who has cesspool, things like that. So all the green people, the green parcels are sewered. The blue parcels are cesspools. The yellow, there's nothing, there's no home there. The orange, they're unsure. I think since then we've filled in a few of those colors, but the figure hasn't been updated. Yeah, I think that's all of them. That information was really helpful as we went through this evaluation. We're gonna skip this video. We showed it the last time. Thought it was a good video, but we don't quite have the AV expertise, audio video expertise tonight to get it all going, I think. But all that being said is there's 112 cesspools within the homestead that need to be converted. And with the Act 125 that the state legislature passed, all of them need to be converted by 2050. We also know that there's city sewer nearby, real close by within the homestead, and that connects to Wai'anae wastewater treatment plant. And then most of the people within the homestead live in the residential lots, and they're really small lots. They don't really work for IWS. There's not really enough space. So we took all that information, and when we think about how to best convert the cesspools, these are really the criteria that we thought about. It needs to be affordable to lessees. It also needs to be affordable to those who are building it and funding it, DHHL, and also the city, because any sewers that are being built ultimately become the cities. It has to be acceptable to the community, and that's what we want to hear, everybody here. This is, this is your neighborhood, so we'd love to hear what looks good to you, what doesn't look good. Hey, is this in the wrong place? Is that a better place to put it? Things like that. You need to meet all the environmental and legal requirements. There's a lot of this. These are requirements from the Department of Health and the city primarily. It needs to be achievable. It needs to be something that can actually be built by local contractors and something that people know how to maintain, whether it's wastewater operators or whether it's homeowners or lessees. And it needs to have a proven track record. So we don't want to implement something that is the next big thing that's going to get installed and fail within a year. We need to know that it's going to work. All right, so now let's go through the preliminary recommendations. So these are the color-coded recommendations here. So what you'll see on the screen is the homestead delineated by the black line going all around it. And we'll start with the green lots, which kind of correspond to that other map. And then up in the top right, there's a pie chart there that shows the size of each group within the homestead. I think total there's 400 or so parcels. I think this was the biggest group, 276 homes that are already connected to sewer. They currently have a sewer bill already. And there will be no change really to those houses. They pay approximately over the next several years, it will be about $1,800 per year for the sewer bill. Is anybody here in the green? Just curious. Jan, sorry, I put you on the spot last time. Okay. All right, the next group is the orange. So the orange are homes that there's 46 of them. So these are homes that have a sewer in the road in front of the house, but they're not connected to them. So in order to convert out of their cesspool, there would need to be a new lateral sewer from the home to the sewer. So these homes currently don't have a sewer bill.
Jordan, may I ask, what is it that prevented them from not being connected when you look at the other neighbors who were connected?
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't really know the answer to that. Yeah, if anybody didn't hear,
Who's in the orange?
yeah, the orange. Why didn't the orange homes connect? Why aren't they connected now? And yeah, we're really not sure. Within the city regulations, there is a requirement where you have to connect within. Forgetting the number of days. There's some number of days that you have to connect after the sewer is there. but perhaps it wasn't enforced. It also isn't a city sewer right now. It's still DHHL's sewer.
Just curious, because it's sporadic.
Yeah, no, it is curious because there's sewer right there in the road and it's serving their neighbors.
Right. I need to open for a moment there. City bill, ordinance 20-30. Bill 7 came out in 2020 when we had Kimberly Pine. Kevin Anderson had introduced this and had passed that bid. If there's a sewer line that comes to city sewer that comes through your street, you are required to hook up. But they give you a 25-year incentive where for the first 25 years, you don't pay from the street to the 2 feet ladder that's coming up, but you are totally responsible what's in your hand. From the house to the ladder risers. But there was a flaws in this bill. Back when, let me flip to the page, it's a bit. Back in March 18, 2020, unconstitutionally, they canceled public hearings. And they still passed the bill. That's crazy. So we had a conversation with Andrew Tupola back in 2023 regarding this, violating our constitutional right for public hearing. We have a right to public speaking on this thing, on any measure, public testimony. Nothing happened so far. Okay, contested it. And not only Hawaiian Homestead is getting affected, but people on the residential side, on the west side is getting affected by that. And nobody's being contested about that. Okay, I mean, talking to them blew my face right now. And Andrew knows about that right now. And that has to be brought up to City Councilwoman Esther Kiaimas, planning division, planning committee. But with that said, but the money going to be spent for this type of infrastructure is going to hurt those who are living on fixed income, seriously. So the incentives, you're right. There's a back flip on this thing of how different type of systems can be engineered. Okay, on the land. But if you're on a 5,000 square foot, if for a 5-bedroom, you require for a leach field, at least 1,500 square feet of leach field, they cannot be built on. Even for a tree to be next to it, it'll damage the leach field. Okay, I'm a pipe fitter background. So I do know some a little bit what's going on, but the engineer would actually design the system that purpose need to be done. There's many different types. But the Wade Park up in the Kailalo area, they have an injection system in the ground. So the far-fetched as far as contaminating our groundwater, sometimes I think it's a witch hunt. Okay, we're dealing with the influence that's coming in, the liquid is, we call it the term influence, that's poured into the land, that's absorption. But the sludge paper, it gets mechanically removed. So we will always give them a job, honeyways, okay? But it's gonna hurt the people, so the money, some areas is, homestead land is what, 6,000 square feet? Majority of all the lots. Sorry to say, they're gonna have to have some type of engineered system. You either individual wastewater system on their land, or you're gonna have to connect to city sewer. Sadly to say, but the kupunas on the land who lives on fixed income is gonna be negatively impacted financially. Because the money is gonna be increased 4% to the year 2035. 4% increase on their usage of the water. So as we go on, there's a lot more to be said because it's covered under the state Title 11, Chapter 62. On the city side is under Chapter 14, the infrastructure, public work infrastructure. So I have this here. We challenged it back in 2023. That's why I can go more on as you was talking about. But for those who live on topography lands where the road is here lower, and your home is here, and the sewer line is up here, you don't flow that way. Okay, you would have to pump it up. So electrically, it has to be up there. So more so, the component is going to hurt. to get electricity removed up to the point. There's some homes up in Wai'anae Valley, topography of the land is home here, sewer line is here. Horrible. Thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bill 7. Ordinance 2036.
Had some good background.
Oh, it's very crucial.
Thanks for sharing that.
Hey, Jordan. I just wanted to answer Auntie's question with the oranges. What happened is when they broke ground on these houses over here with residential, each residential home was supposed to have their single home lateral. But when they did inspections, they found out that the infrastructure that was built in the 80s, they were cockroaching it. They had both residential houses not having their sole lateral. They were both feeding into one output. So they was backing up the sewer into the residentials. So these orange areas, they found out that these residentials, neighbors side by side, both houses are feeding into one outage into the system. And that's why they have to break ground. That's why you see these orange spread around. Also, I'll piggyback off of Uncle.
Please do.
This 25 years, yeah, it should have been a public hearing. That's why I feel this ordinance should be revised. Because if you read into this ordinance 43-6.1, the liability for payment. Yes, it says you're exempt for 25 years, but if you read into the details. If you're doing a transfer, which a lot of us, we like to be proactive, we have bad health, kids are gonna take over. But when you do a transfer of your as a lessee to your child or a loved one, you lose that 25-year exemption. The only way it applies and excludes you is upon death. Now, we all know we want to take care of our family, we have multiple children, we want to say who's a responsible child, and we want to make the transfer prior to upon our death. But then, what you did, you just killed flight. You lost that 25 years right there. You literally will have to just die in order for your loved one, whoever you left the designation of successor to go ahead and still carry on with that 25 years. And without a public hearing, it could have been intervened as far as revising the ordinance or making it more sustainable and stable for the future. So it is clauses to that. And it's a big mishap right now because we all see problems right now with designation of successorships not updated. So now everybody's on track. They're trying to transfer their home if they have health problems, cancer, God forbid, something that is terminal. We want to pass on to loved ones, but now it's DOA. We just lost that 25 years just because we're trying to be proactive. So, yeah, public hearing was big time and that ordinance 43-6.1 is a liability for payment. It needs to be revised.
Those are good points to be brought up though, and I don't know what kind of action can be taken to revisit. Where you can have public hearing on that, because that is crucial, that if that is only, terminates, and only upon death. Our loved ones, I mean, that leaves them in a hole. For not only that years, but the years to come. And if our income is already 1,800 now, I don't know what Janet's paying. I'm blessed that I'm not yet tied in, but then there's to that too, but that's important that these may bring up. And I don't know how that will impact us or the HHL or city and county, but because we are kind of collaborating, I think those are important issues to revisit. And whether or not that can be addressed from a city level, whatever level it may be, I think at this point, like how we're trying to be proactive, not just for us, but for our future generation. And this impacts the HHL, when we transfer of ownership. And that's important to us. We're not gonna live forever. But it shouldn't have to wait until we die, that this thing will come into place.
So if I can say something, Jordan, so something like this, I'm hearing it from families and how it's gonna be affecting everybody. Now, as leadership for our homestead, I feel like this is something that our homestead can take to the commission. Maybe even talk starting with Nancy and Julie about it to see if it can be revised, because, it isn't fair. It isn't fair to say, or give that impression that, yeah, you got 25 years, but then, people are not gonna read the clauses of things like this, so, okay, to the commission. talk to Nancy and Julia about it, and then so probably moving forward so that we can get to your part of the presentation, we'll hold our questions.
Sounds good. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, as a group, you know, you may have a stronger voice talking with it's a county, city and county ordinance, right? So we're rather than just as an individual, as you have.
Yeah, and we're
Stronger
taking
voice.
notes and we'll make sure that all of these. We'll talk to the city about it as soon as possible.
Thank you all, thank you, Jen, thank you all.
So yeah, on recurring posts to show an example of what a sewer lateral installation would look like. So these are, remember, the orange homes are the ones that would have a new sewer lateral installation from the home to the road where the sewer already is. So there's a trench that's dug, and then the 4 or 6 inch sewer line is placed down in the bottom of the trench, and then it's backfilled and landscaped. That's during construction, that's not the end. Okay, the next group is the dark red. There's 92 homes that fall under this. I know there's some of you folks here tonight who are in the dark red area. So yeah, this is new lateral connecting your house down to a new sewer line. Currently, there's no sewer line in the road in front of your house. So the recommendation is that there's a new sewer line in the road.
What?
Oh.
Someone come back in the house.
I kind of muted them, sorry.
Okay, so yeah, these dark red homes currently don't have a sewer bill, shouldn't have a sewer bill because you shouldn't be connected to the sewer. And I think we covered the 25-year exemption pretty good on that last one. But the cost for the sewer bill for these dark red homes would be the same as the green homes. It's an estimate. It's the best estimate that the city has based on the new sewer fees, which hopefully everybody has heard about. I know E&V and Dr. Babcock have been touring around the island and informing communities about the sewer fees, the sewer rates. But yeah, 1,800 per year is about the estimate of most homes. So those dark red homes would have a new sewer lateral from the home to the street. And then there would be a new sewer in the road. It would look something kind of like this when they're building it. There's a bigger trench. There'd be an excavator that digs the trench and a trench box in there that keeps it from collapsing down. Then there would be probably an 8-inch sewer in that trench. Then ultimately that would be backfilled and the road would be repaired on top. Okay, the next group here is purple. Okay. So the purple lots are up in the agricultural lots. They're all over an acre or so up there. There's 16 lots that we had evaluated, although there may be more that weren't listed correctly, really. But the recommendation for them is to use a septic tank in leach field. Those homes currently don't have a sewer bill, and they wouldn't be required to pay a sewer bill. They wouldn't be connected to sewers. But because they have such big lots, there's enough space on those lots to where you can install a septic tank and a leach field, and it can treat the wastewater adequately within DOH regulations. So the cost for those folks roughly, it's going to be a lot lower for them, around 350 a year averaged out to pump the sludge out. But they're going to be on the hook for replacing their system after about 20 years or so. And that's a pretty big cost. Those systems are in the order of 30,000 or so.
So,
Is that the current rate, 350, or is that the anticipated?
That's an average. We did it we estimated it for 20 years. And then,
So the property is anticipated to be their leach field.
it depends on how big the house is, but just rough ballpark. 30 feet by 30 feet or so.
We have a picture.
How does that sound?
For every 5 bedrooms, you require 1 septic system. So I think mine's one is like about 1,500 square feet for absorption. Okay, that means you're gonna put no trees above it, you're gonna build on it, and the fees actually, you know, depending on the usage of the septic system, every time you pump out, first pump out I did was every 5 years, cost me $200 something. It's economically feasible, trying to say, for septic system. You know, it's less than $300 5 years. And at the most, and yet it was very little sludge, because enzymes, you put it in there, breaks down all the hard things, it becomes influenced, liquidy, to go into the leach field and spread it out equally. So the equation on there is much less.
But the enzyme is part of the routine itself, meaning that you put in the tank.
So what's the lot size versus your leach field?
The lot size, well, mine is 1 acre, so, the whole front yard is, I think it's like about 27 feet wide by about, say about 50 feet long, you know? And depending on the designer, maybe it has shrunk because there are different designs on it, the engineer put in. So infiltrators is like a Quonset hut that they put in, there's no pipes. It's like a Quonset hut, plastic Quonset hut that's throughout, all in alignment. And it's a lot less than my area of footage for a 5-bedroom home. I remember now, the equation is every 5 bedrooms require 1 septic system. My neighbor is 8 bedroom, has to put in 2 septic systems.
And if you have the space, they're great. They work well.
It's economically feasible.
Yeah, so if you have an acre or so of property, it's great, and that's why we're recommending it for the agricultural lots, because they're all kind of in that size. Yeah.
You can even go with maybe, 40 acre, depending on, like I said, how many bedrooms, you know, depends on the engineer, yeah.
So John Nagato from DOH, he just contributed that it's also based on the size of the absorption bed. It's based on the percolation rate of the
That's
soil
correct.
as well.
Part of the engineering bed, get both guidance.
Okay, we got quite a few slides left, so we better
Okay,
keep going here.
okay, sorry. So
There you go.
here's our photo of the septic tank and leach field with some rough ballpark sizes on there, roughly, depending on the situation, say 30 feet by 30 feet for the leach field, 8 feet by 15 feet or so for the septic tank. And yeah, this is recommended for the agricultural lots. And then lastly are the blue lots. There are 4 lots at the end of Halapoy Place that are down gradient. To get to the sewer, they have to go up, and gravity doesn't flow up, so we need to pump it up. They would still be connected to the sewer, but in order to get there, there are 2 ways that are reasonable to get there. Evaluated a handful of different ones, but the 2 best options that we're recommending are an on-site grinder pump or a neighborhood pump station. Those 4 homes currently don't have a sewer bill. After connecting and being hooked up with the pump that they would need, depending on the situation, it would be around 1,800 a year, up to 2,400 per year. So these 4 homes are the highest maintenance cost of anybody. Going forward, we think that specifically for these 4 homes, we'd like to talk more. I think there's probably some opportunity to have some more coordination on those specific situations. So yeah, for those 4 blue homes, they would have the new sewer lateral connecting the house to the sewer. They would have the new sewer in the street. And then there would be a pump station, either a neighborhood pump station. This would be located somewhere in the vicinity of the homes. There's not a whole lot of space. That's one of the things that we would like to talk about, concepts for where it can be sited. But in that situation, likely it would be managed by an operating contract that DHHL would have. Whereas the other option, the grinder pump, that would be on site. And the lessee would be responsible for that. So it's a small well, it's near your house, or tank, sorry. Your house drains into that tank. When the float switch goes off, it pumps it out to the sewer at the street. For all the purples, oranges, light blues, and dark reds, basically, if you have a cesspool at your house, this project will also cover closing that cesspool. So I put a detail up there from a recent state project where they closed some cesspools in Makiki. And what that entails is pumping the sludge out of the cesspool, get everything out of there, flush it with water, get all that out of there. Cut the top off. The bottom is the part that seeps out, the sewage seeps out of. That would be filled with concrete all the way up to the top. And then the pipe would be cut and plugged. So it would still live under the ground, but you would have, your landscaping would go over top of it.
And how they do it now?
Yeah. Well, they got a lot of them to do. So the contractors kind of know the drill now.
Estimating how much concrete is needed, the average?
It depends on the size of the cesspool. I haven't exactly for all these cesspools, but we do have a lot of costs from recent projects. And that's what we did to estimate how much each one of those would cost. But as far as the amount of concrete, I'm not sure offhand.
What if you could fill it with rock, something that's more important?
Well, you aren't responsible for doing it. The project, the DHHL construction project would be doing it. They have to do it in a way that follows the Department of Health's rules. But you shouldn't have to do it. Okay, so summary, so we evaluated a number of alternatives. I want to summarize them here. What we talked about today was connecting to the city sewer and to the existing Wai'anae wastewater treatment plant. This was the lowest cost alternatives, and is depending on how exactly it's done, we estimated life cycle costs of 30 to 37 million. So that's a big number. That's what things are going for these days, believe it or not. This is a pretty big sewer project, really. It's also conservative. When we do these things, we estimate things on the higher side. But this is in line with what's going on out there now. We looked at a number of alternatives that we didn't talk a whole lot about today. One of them was connecting to a new Wai'anae Homestead wastewater treatment plant. So that would be your own treatment plant here. That price range was 55 to 65 million, and that was not recommended. I'll talk a little bit more about why that is in just a minute. We also evaluated connecting the ag lots to sewer. But that would be an additional 7 to 18 million, depending on how it's configured. And to be honest, it probably wouldn't really work, considering the amount of space out there and the amount of flow that you need to push things through a sewer line. So that's not recommended either. So things that we looked at, evaluated, but we're not ultimately recommending. As much as I would love to be able to recommend water reuse at the community level, that's the one that would require a Homestead wastewater treatment plant. So when you turn into the Homestead, right there in the vicinity of where the trailers are now, we evaluated it would require about a 5-acre portion of land there for the treatment plant and the disposal area. But it would be significantly more expensive. The main reason we looked into that, though, is that that's what you would need if you wanted to reuse water in and around the homestead. So say you want to irrigate Kaupuni Park, you want to do a fire break, which all sounds great. Like I would love to see that happen. Fire break going around the homestead. Let's use our wastewater, treat it. But there are real risks to that beyond just the cost. Is operating and maintaining a high-tech wastewater treatment plant like that, there are risks. So what we did is we looked into similar projects in Hawaii recently that have been going on. And first off, there's nothing like this. And the things that are similar to it, there are challenges. So we're not mainly the challenges are operations and maintenance. There's just not people to run these kind of things. Labor shortages. IWS for residential lots. There's just not enough space for most lots. There may be some lots in there that could maybe fit it in, but for most lots, there's not enough space for a leach field. And there's especially not enough space 20 years down the road when you have to replace your leach field, put in another one. And generally, yeah, they don't meet the requirements of the state law for the leach field space. Sewer for agricultural lots. Yeah, we looked at that also. I'll put up a picture of one of the agricultural lots, and you can really see how it's a small house on a really big lot. There's plenty of space to put in a nice big leach field there that will do the treatment that it needs, but there's not much else around it. Sewering would be significantly more expensive. And yeah, we also looked at running a cross-country sewer. So that's a sewer that instead of running through the roads, it would run behind the homes from Halapoi Place down the cul-de-sac side. So instead of them having to connect and pump up, they can flow to the back of their property and around through the park to Kepaula Place cul-de-sac there, and then connect into the system that way. But there were some issues with that. It's a 15-foot wide easement. It would have had to cut through, I think it was about 15 lots, which was problematic. It was real, lot of turns. The city has some requirements on maintenance. It's a challenge for them to have to get into everybody's backyard when they need to go clean sewers and things like that. But we were really trying to consider, hey, if you have that, you're connected to a gravity sewer, you don't need a pump, don't need to use electricity. I thought it was a reasonable thing to go after, but considering the cost and the impact to all those homes in their backyards, having sewers and manholes in their backyards, ultimately we don't recommend it.
You mentioned the river is right there that you're trying to keep it away from.
It's close. It's close.
There.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are challenges with that. But we evaluated it, we looked into it, we have layouts for it. Just don't recommend it. We also looked into incinerator and composting toilets. There was some interest in these. Threw up a picture of one is it's called the Cinderella incinerator toilet. The composting toilet, not the best example of one ever, but it's one that I've been to in Colorado Valley in Kauai. Used it. But you would still need a sewer connection for your non-toilet sanitary waste like sinks and tubs and washing machines. Sorry about these bullets are a little out of order, but next steps. So AECOM, that's the engineering team, and DHHL will consider what everybody has to say today and roll that into the final solutions. And we'll finalize that preliminary engineering report study. ERG is the other consultant who's managing this contract. They're working with DHHL and the Department of Health on the funding application. So they're going to keep progressing the funding application. And then we'll hold one more community meeting, at least one more community meeting in February to go over the final solutions and the path forward. So now we're like top story.
That's great. Thank you for all the information and. John wants to say something and we'll open the forum up to the virtual audience if they wanna join in. So that was a lot of information and that's it, but you have something you want to say, John?
It's only good.
Oh,
Or do I need it?
I don't know,
Can they hear?
can they hear what's going on without the microphone?
I'm not sure.
Can you repeat what people say or the questions into the mic after so people can hear?
Okay.
She says, yeah.
Hello, everybody. John McKeppa here, President for the Wai'anae Valley Homestead Community Association. So just wanted to give a little background history on what we've been doing. So our first meeting was hosted by Carmen Guzman. And it was one of those mapping sessions, and I was invited by Kapua to attend. And it was from there that we started all of this. And so since then, we've had more meetings than we've had, with the department. I think there's like 6 or 7 meetings altogether. And, 3 with you folks, maybe 4 with you folks, DHHL, EPA, and ACOM. But when I went to Carmen's meeting, what I realized when I found out about Act 125 is that by the time I came into this and what we were, what I was hearing, 7 years had already passed when the act had started. And so that meant that our families in our homestead didn't have any type of guidance for that first 7 years. And that didn't sit well. And when I went and I talked to my board about it, I realized that it even affected my board. And so, I'm on sewer, so it doesn't affect me, but it affects all of you here. And to me, I feel like, why wouldn't I advocate for my neighbors? And so I just wanted to say there's a lot that a lot of you haven't or don't know about all the behind the scenes happenings, all of the meetings that take place like every month, and all of the back and forth with ACOM and DHHL and Wai'anae Valley Homestead. So there's been plenty of input, and I'm very, very thankful that when I come to these meetings and I sit at that table, that all of our opinions matter and they come. And so when you folks ask these questions, I also bring my concerns and your questions to these meetings. And all of that have been taken into consideration. So I just wanted to thank all of the department that has been working with us on all of this. And then, regarding the environment, a lot of us say, well, my cesspool is working okay, but 30 or 40 years ago, yes, the cesspool was okay and it was allowable. But the cesspool leaches right into our ground. So what I've heard a couple of weeks ago when they were talking about rains is that rain takes 20 years to filter through to get to our groundwater. So rain today is not going to be filtered through for us to use until 20 years from now. Now, when you let that sink in, think about all the waste in your cesspool. All of that is sinking into our groundwater as well. So this is an environmental impact. So we need to act now instead of later because, of course, we want our mountain to stay healthy. So, again, we hear, my cesspool is fine. There's no problems. Why you got to change them? Why you got to do this? On the top, yeah, it's fine. Think about what's on the bottom and what's seeping through the ground. It is an environmental problem. We all take a look at the cost now. You hear 20,000, 30,000, and you're like, oh my gosh, how are we gonna pay for that? But just think, if we don't do it now, our kids are gonna have to pay for it. And when they pay for it, it's gonna be 60,000, 75,000. So do we wanna take that time to pay for it now? so they don't have to suffer the financial burden later. And then, Julie had talked about this being a pilot project. So Wai'anae Valley Homestead is paving the way for other homesteads. We're working out the kinks so that the department can quickly and hopefully move forward to help other homesteaders get this environmentally correct. And so, you know, we've had all of these meetings and all of these things so that we can pave the way, so that we can make sure that all of our other homesteads, you know, every homestead is different. Every situation is gonna be different, and they're gonna have their own kinks. But this is a learning curve for us and for the department to move forward to help our other homesteads across the state. And then lastly, we talk about costs. A lot of our kupunas are on fixed income. I mean, I'm struggling, you know, so it's not just kupunas, it's all families. Cost of living is so high, you know, there's so much variables when we talk about cost, we talk about income, we talk about how much money, you know, we gotta put up. Yes, DHHR is looking for funding, we thank them for that. But I just wanted to also say that our homestead does have a nonprofit organization. And it is our intention, it is my intention to help where we can, how we can. We're still working out how we can do that. But I'm praying to Akua that the AI gods can help me with filling out all of those paperwork that we need to get monies. So there's other projects going on within our homestead. But I just want you folks to know that we're doing what we can to help all of you guys. You know, and I sit here as a Seward family, but I'm not sitting here for me, I'm sitting here for all of you folks. So thank you.
Who bought this snacks, the round ones? That's so good. What is that? Yeah?
Wrong one. The ball or the flat ones?
The-
The
Shortbread
ball-
cookie?
I never even seen that. Tasted that
I
before.
thought it was one.
Yeah, I thought so too. Anyway, sorry, digress. But, you know, really Jan has been throughout so diligent. You guys lucky that you have such a diligent leader, and she's like keeps up with all these meetings and really represents you guys well. She'll tell us, you know what, we're not gonna understand that, you gotta bring it down. This is too complicated, like, you know, so she's really good representative. What do you guys think about what you heard tonight? You guys okay? Do you guys understand what your lot, you gotta do, what you have to do for your lot? Yeah, and we demystified it a little, so it's not so scary, it's not so like, what, I gotta do what? So at least you have an idea now. And that you are looking for funding. I want people to leave more confident because you guys, to me, all represent your community. And in fact, we're collating the handouts, so if you are friends with your neighbors or your other relatives in the community, take a packet and give it to them, because
My neighbors.
I mean, I've been taking, you know, we wanna know who's been coming to the meeting, so who understands this information? But there's so many that have not even, they will, you know, come to any meeting. And you see how complicated this is real fast, so if you can help, like, get the word out, you know, get awareness built. So you guys now are representatives, go ahead.
I'm just brainstorming.
Yeah.
And you know, I know we're all stuck in this canoe voyaging together. Yeah, and I see HHL, you know, you guys trying to get funding, so. I'm just shooting it out there, so we know DHL, we know DHL is like a land management and they facilitate to ensure our native Hawaiians have residential homes. So with that said, a lot of us native Hawaiians, we Akamai, we know that the lands out there that get Kamakana Ali'i Mall, get VA Center. So I understand economics, we need incoming revenue for sustainability. But with that being native lands that's supposed to be residential, and we divert some of that revenue to fund the homestead sewer system.
That's very good. That's a very good idea. We do have an income generating, revenue generating arm of the department, the land management division. Manages our land disposition, so they make money off of our general leases, and that goes into paying for our main programs, which is homesteading. But that's a great idea to look at our internal funds too.
They're asking when people speak if they can say their name.
Oh. What was your
It would
name?
help the people on this, yeah.
Jan was Jan Makepa, the president was talking first, and then now we had Katiana.
Not Ian. Hey, oh, Ian.
Yeah.
Why call no, I want it. What's your last name?
No, I just brainstorm, cause like I
Yeah.
said, like, DHL, they facilitate and they're trying to get residential homes for us Native Hawaiians, but us Native Hawaiians, we know. The I out there is going to corporations,
Yeah.
we get Daddy White, we get Senate, we get Kamakana Imo. So with economic, and I get it, I get it, it's income and revenue to sustain DHL. But for Native Hawaiians, the I know, especially for residential homes, how can we divert some of the
Yeah.
incoming revenue?
Yeah.
To fund, DHL trying to look for funding,
Mhm.
that's big funding right there, and that's just two corporations, two entities.
Yeah.
Spread it around the islands,
No,
there's a lot of, I know they're being leased to corporations.
we're definitely gonna have to do something, because you're the tip of the iceberg, basically, right? We have all the rest of the
Tip of the
homesteaders.
spear.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Tip of the spear. But the point is that we're gonna have to help everybody. And you guys are lucky you Fuka first. And so, we'll have all the resources directed that way, but, I'm worried about the next homestead and the next homestead on down the line. We're all gonna have to be able to usher these people through, so that's a great idea. But any kind of other comments or questions, top story, ideas that you might have now that you know?
Aloha, owau kapua, kili ko kamai. Did you folks talk about a timeline that maybe I missed? Yeah. Maybe in one of the other handouts?
Just the project that what we've done, then we have another meeting.
I mean, moving forward. So like, when are we expected to have this money? When are we gonna know what type of subsidies are gonna help us? And, recognizing that this is gonna be years for the department to do with all of the big statewide homesteads. So not each community is gonna be assisted evenly, because it depends upon the monies that's available. Like, if we had a different president, we might have more monies available, who knows, right? Especially EPA. But so to me, it's like, okay, because in 1998, the department had threatened lease termination to jump on board for us to convert, because that's when our people first started converting, was in the early 2000s. But that letter came in the 1990s, before my husband and I got married, which is 99, so I know that much. So what is the timeline? And to me, it's like, be informed that we will buck the 25-year if it does not move on to our successor. And that 25-year, does it start once we go live with it, or once the construction is started? Because I don't want to pay for anything unless I've got full operational use of it. So when does that clock start? And we have to ensure that in our leases, hopefully in everybody's ownership paperwork, but in our leases, that we need to have it continue to the successor, because you still have some original lessees, some second and third generation right now, but it is going to be transferred, because we're going to celebrate 50 years in a couple years. So I'm real concerned about timeline and monies.
Does anybody have any information? Do you guys have anything to contribute or answer about timeline and monies, if we get from the team?
Yeah, I guess just for me to add that we mostly what we've mostly talked about tonight is the timeline of this project, and probably everybody wants to know when could I get a sewer, and when is the sewer bill gonna come, and
I'm not really in a rush for it.
well, at a minimum, I think that's something that we should aim towards, you know, to follow up on. But it's a years, to get to the point of construction, this is years.
Well, and we are gonna get that application ready in February, right?
So we should know.
We'll know more by the February meeting.
And actually, we have some improvements being done right now, I understand, or.
To upgrade the
Upgrade.
existing sewer lines so they can be conveyed to the city for operations and maintenance. So that's kind of step one.
That's happening now. Oh, you have something?
Yeah, so I was just gonna add that, yeah, by February, when we have the project concept developed, we'll have the application ready to go. That's probably a good time for us to have a decent idea of the timeline for design. The key steps are gonna be funding, design, and construction.
So by February, we should have a better idea. We can ask-
And we're gonna be talking to DOH between now and February as well.
John Makepa, so Nancy, thank you for that comment about talking to DOH, because we know that we are being proactive on this end. But in order for this to work, we need to have the infrastructure in on the Department of Health, city and county side. And so, sometimes you might think that we might be putting the horse before the cart, but it's always good to be proactive and ready so that when the state and the city is ready, we're ready.
Yeah, it's a big coordination thing.
I don't remember if I mentioned it or if anybody mentioned it earlier, but Department of Health representatives are on the call.
Yeah, John.
John and Joanna, those are
Yeah.
people who will ultimately approve plans. So that's great. And then I'm not sure if Roger's on?
Yeah.
Oh, great. So from City and County of Honolulu, the director is here too on the call.
You have another comment?
Hello, I'm Austin. Can you flip that picture to all the homes that is required and it shows the park area? Oh, my name's Austin Salcedo. Yeah, it's there. IWS is an individual wastewater system for everybody's land property. But the land is owned by DHHL. So I'm looking at, this is a lot of land here. Are there any lands that we can pipe out to where the septic tank will be on the property, but the influence liquid can be pumped out to an open area where goes into the infiltrators itself, where it dispenses is out. Just thinking out of the box.
That's around, but this is the slope, the parking plan, right? So it's the slope.
Yeah, the topography of the land, this is higher, and there's also a stream bed that's over here somewhere, and you gotta be at least about 500 feet away from that. You're just thinking out of the box, because the land belongs to DHHL. So why don't we just utilize the land and have the septic tank on the property individually, but the leach field, the disbursement of the liquid, spread it out to another area, just out of the box.
So yes, maybe that's a question for Jordan.
When you have a leach field like Austin had suggested, is that leach field, can the kids be playing in that leach field?
That's a good question.
Because I'm very protective about Kaupuni Park. Because that's the only place that our kids have. And so we're fighting for, a lot of upgrades that we want to do. So I don't really want to see that option.
I can definitely understand that. So what I can add to both of those I guess, questions and concerns is that if, or leach fields at a home, people run around, play, soccer, run around on their leach fields, but leach fields at public parks, I'm not sure about. That's something I think we can look into. But I'd also, definitely echo what Jan says about I'm sure a lot of people in the community would be concerned about using the park, but that's not, for me but we can definitely include that in the report. I think we already have it in the report that we considered it. We thought about what it could connect to potentially, what it could treat and the size that it would need. But we ultimately didn't evaluate it as a detailed alternative. It's not the whole picture. It would only cover, it could handle some amount. But as a whole, it's not the whole solution. Right.
Another solution would be some of our ag properties in the.
I was gonna say that, we thought that ag was a farmland, right?
However, there are still people waiting on the wait list for ag property. So we want to keep that as part of the consideration as well.
So if you didn't hear that, some suggestions were made about what about the ag lands but we also you're waiting for ag leases.
Hello, my name is Faye. I just wondered if there are have you heard of any other places that have leach fields in public parks?
I'm not sure exactly.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah, we can check into it. Yeah, I'll look into it. At the top of my mind, I think that there's something at K Beach in Kauai, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, we'll look into that. Beach fields, public parks and access,
New water. So that everything just stays green.
water and fertilizer and what.
Other comments, other question? Yeah.
Leach field technology is coming a long way though. Now they got these what they like, not the trenches, but what are they called? Chambers. And the footprints are way smaller now, yeah?
There's still a requirement for the size for Department of Health based on the.
Can that be updated? Because technology is changing.
Hi, I can answer some questions. This is John from Department of Health Wastewater Branch.
Hi,
Thanks,
John.
Is he gonna talk?
Go ahead.
I don't know,
Hear me
go
okay?
ahead.
Oh, if you can hear me. So I'm not sure if I heard the question correctly about the parks. I can't think of any on the top of my head, but I don't think there should be a concern about an absorption bed in a park if you are designing like say I don't know if you guys are thinking about like a comfort station, like a bathroom with an individual wastewater system that uses an absorption bed. It's the same like Jordan was saying for a residential lot. If it's properly sized, the water goes down and there is a minimum amount of cover of above the absorption bed. So again, if it's properly sized, everything percolates down. If it's improperly sized or it's not functioning correctly, then it can get saturated, and then that is a concern. That's what we call a spill. That's a violation, and then our enforcement section will go out and address that and get them in compliance. So I hope that kind of answers some of that question. And then the question about technologies for absorption beds, yes, the standard way, from years ago was pipe and gravel. The newer system, which is not that new, but as far as widely used, is what we call the chamber system. Like the gentleman said, it kind of looks like a small Quonset hut. With those, if you're not traffic rated, and I don't want to get too into the weeds, but generally with chambers, we allow for a 17% reduction in the horizontal area. So it does get smaller if you use a chamber. So I hope that helps a little.
Thank you, sir.
We've got 2 more comments here, but if the virtual audience has questions too, they can raise their virtual hand. You want
Just a question,
Name.
oh,
Kaya.
Pono, Lyles. Question, so each residential, will DHL be the sole person to get a building permit and everybody umbrella under DHL, or every residential is responsible for their own building permit? And then the second one is, as far as the slide, even concerning Puinalo Place and Halapoy, the on-site grinder pump and the neighborhood pump, which one is best, where if my neighbor was to plug up the system, it doesn't compromise my house? Is it a loop system?
A septic system.
It's technical.
All right. So first, I'll go for the second one. The second one's the fun one, I guess. How do we not get Duda backed up in the house?
Roger raised his hand.
Nope.
Okay, well, after this.
Okay.
Answer.
All right, so the grinder pump, you have a pump at your house. Pump goes up to a pipe, has a check valve. So flow doesn't go back. It can only go one way out of the check valve. So you're safe there. If they back up, they're not gonna, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one. The neighborhood pump station, they all flow by gravity down to this one singular pump station that the 4 houses are sharing. So it cannot flow back.
That makes sense.
There's advantages and disadvantages to each. We could probably talk for a while about it.
Do we want to?
There was a first question though. Permits, yeah, building permits. So yeah, it would be one construction contract, one building permit, all under one. I think the one thing that people would be responsible for is coordinating for access. So if you're doing a lateral on somebody's property, that would be something, some coordination up front to get permission to access everybody's home. We'd ultimately need to, there would be trenching in each person's yard and connecting to their existing plumbing outside of their house in the ground.
Good question.
Go ahead. Well, Rogers, can we let Roger?
Yeah,
He had his hand raised, that's why. Hey, Roger.
go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I wanted to mention, there was some talk earlier about 25 years and transfer, and wanted to maybe kind of let you know what that's about. So in city ordinance, as has been mentioned, when a sewer becomes available, folks are required to connect to it within 90 days and have then, even if they have a cesspool, they've got to connect if the sewer comes to them. The 25-year thing has to do with if you already have upgraded from a cesspool and you don't have a cesspool anymore and you've put in an acceptable alternative, which would be a septic tank or a leach field or something else, some other type of acceptable system, then under that circumstance, you would still be required to connect to the new sewer. Okay, so that's what's in ordinance. The 25-year thing comes into play with two things. There are sort of two sets of charges. There's a connection fee, and the connection fee, which in this case again would be paid by DHHL, but the connection fee, if you've already upgraded to a septic tank, that's what you have on your property now. You still have to connect to the sewer and abandon that system. So the connection fee would be waived for 25 years. If the property is sold within the 25 years, then the connection fee would be due. Presumably, that would be DHHL again. DHHL is the property owner. The other thing that's waived, again, for 25 years is the sewer fee. So the sewer fee would be waived and you wouldn't pay any sewer fee for 25 years. That's if you've already spent the money to upgrade to a system. So it's to sort of reimburse folks who've already spent money to upgrade to something other than a cesspool. Um, if that, if the property is sold, then that 25, then that clock stops, sold or transferred. Then you'd start paying, a sewer fee. So that's what the 25-year thing is, and so I just want to make sure folks kind of understand what that is. If there are any
Yeah.
questions, I'm happy to answer. Thanks.
So they have, for lessees,
Julie?
I'm sorry, Julie Controller with Wai'anae Lands. We have transfers of leases to like successors or, you know, relatives. And so would that be considered like a sale of, it's not like a
No, we
transaction?
still own the land,
Right.
so it's not a actual real estate transaction.
So is that how you would interpret Hawaiian Homeland's transfers?
Yeah, so the landowner, the landowner didn't change. So
Maybe not.
yeah, so and again, I'm not sure if any of these properties that are affected that in this project would have already upgraded from to something other than a cesspool. I don't think there's any, but I suppose there could be.
Is there
That would mean that the lessee presumably had upgraded. And I would be surprised if that happened.
Is there a time frame that the upgrade would have to have occurred?
Prior
No,
to this.
there's no time frame. So
Okay.
if it doesn't have a cesspool, then that would mean it's either connected to sewer already, or maybe it's been upgraded. But I don't
Okay.
think DHHL upgraded any lots.
Right. There might have been some individuals. Does anybody have any follow-up questions?
Who is
Okay.
that?
This is,
Who is that speaking?
Counselor Babcock, head of environmental division of city and county of Honolulu.
The city county director.
Okay.
Thank you, Roger.
John McKeppa. My question is to Jordan. This is in regards to the trenching from the house to the sewer lateral. You said that there would be trenching inside the yard. Is there a way to, because right now we know that for those that are on cesspool, there is a connection from the house to the cesspool. Is there a way to divert it so that we're not having to dig a new trench, or does it have to be a new trench to the sewer lateral? Can they just connect to the existing one that goes to the cesspool and then continue to the sewer lateral, or does it have to be all brand new?
Jan's question was about trenching the lateral. And you can reuse part of your lateral. Straighter is better, but any change in direction, you probably have a clean out there. So the more twists and turns you have to do, the more clean outs you would have in the lot. But you could use at least part of your existing lateral. But it really does depend on where your cesspool is. You know, if it's in the backyard, you know, if you have a post-it to your house, you know, maybe you would change it and divert it back to the front or something like that. But it really depends on how your house is laid out.
I'll come to you later.
Sorry, still thinking.
I am Faye. I just wanted to know if we as lessees have a choice where on our property our lateral goes.
Yeah. I think the answer is somewhat, you somewhat have a say on where, you definitely have a say, it's just how feasible it is. It's gotta flow by gravity to the sewer. So however that can happen, we're dealing with that right now on a project in Maui where we're coordinating with each of the homeowners in Lahaina where it was was burnt down and we're getting input from the homeowners and tweaking the design. They're saying, hey, put the lateral here, but we'd rather have it over on this side of the house. We can, we can adjust.
Like we had the site visit, so they could visit your property, kind of look at those things. I think there are 32 that wouldn't give us access. They didn't have access. We didn't have any information on.
37.
We have 2 questions.
Thank you.
I thought I saw one back here, maybe, no? No?
Okay.
I had one from.
Well, you know, when they came for the site visit, they didn't talk to us.
Oh,
They just did whatever their measurements or whatever their thing was, so. When
Wasn't
we gave access, there was no interaction. So we're gonna need to have this interaction, because my question was, if we have a wall or if it's right through the driveway, I mean, so what's the possibilities of us making it as least destructive to pre-existing foundations? And how can we, I guess, work it, design it to where it's more workable and still feasible, because we know that we got limited funds. And I'm just surprised that we don't have the big picture, even though we're talking about Wai'anae Valley as the Hawaiian Homelands pilot project. I'm just surprised that we don't have by islands. You know, how many Hawaiian homelands out of what, the 2,500 that we thought? No, I mean, just to share with everybody so that we have, because even in the early meetings, which I don't see in this paperwork here, they were Oahu Island. And you have your priorities. And so that we could see the bigger picture and where we are in this picture, because, we're trying to go in at the front willingly. But how does that play with others? Because what's the growth or the activity in the other areas? And what's the outcome should we still at some point not participate in this community action? Because that was one of my questions too. Are we all gonna be turned on at the same time? The first guy that was worked, we're not turned on until the last guy is done.
those are good questions. I'm sorry, we do have that information about other cesspools for other homestead areas. I mean, we did do a study, and so we have by islands, and sometimes we feel like we data overload you guys too much, but we can bring it up at the next meeting so you can see that big picture. In terms of like the sequencing.
Versus a model.
Yeah.
Right now, we're doing a model, just us.
Yeah.
But in actuality, we're talking about future generations. What's the impact? All of our future generations that goes beyond Wai'anae Valley.
Yeah, we've brought that information to the Hawaiian Homes Commission, several updates. We do, Land Development Division does updates pretty much at every commission meeting on what they're doing for wastewater and sewer and all of that, but based on where the commission meeting's happening. So like if they go Maui, then they just talk about what's happening on Maui. So we're actually doing projects statewide. One of the big ones is in Keaukaha. So they're really working with County of Hawaii to, figure out what to do about Keaukaha. But yeah, we can definitely give you guys an overall picture. Maybe at a Hawaiian Homes Commission meeting in the near future.
Well, the thing is, people are working, so you don't have the community going to the commissioner's meetings. So when you come out to the community, you ought to treat it like, this is the first time this person has heard it. Whereas some people have been to every meeting, but you're gonna catch those people that don't know anything. So it's just, not that we have to stay on the page, but just so that it's a kako thing, because it's not just in Hawaii, it's all over America, which it should be. And so it's the role that we're playing for future generations.
Actually, if you look at the one handout that's about the EPA CAWAG, it does talk about all these mainland communities like in Alabama, where the sewage has been running across the land for years and years, and this program's getting those cleaned up. And so, yeah, the whole idea was to reach out to, especially to rural communities, but because Wai'anae Valley was so proactive, they got in line first, so they got, so they're getting you guys are getting the technical assistance first. But we're hoping, cross finger, that this program can continue and that we can get that assistance for all of our homestead communities.
Right, so by the same token, we're hoping that this template is gonna be improved by the time that you get halfway through, and it's like, it's a piece of cake when you're doing your last few homesteads.
And tell us if we've improved over time. Let's see, we have a few more minutes left.
If you have to use the restroom, just go out this hall, take a right and another right.
Roger, hi, this is Austin Salcedo. You already know who I am. State of Hawaii had given incentive under the Hawaii Administrative Rules, Title 11, Chapter 62. They gave an incentive for about $20-something thousand, but only for 200-something recipients for making this cesspool conversion. This is a state initiative, not a federal initiative for this cesspool conversion. There's no CFRs in United States code to make these changes, but the state of Hawaii to give money again, Roger. How will you guys bring up this incentive program again, state funded? Okay, Roger, it was only 225, I think, was given this incentive for 20-something thousand.
Yeah.
It
Exactly.
was
But
Department of Health, wasn't it? No?
Yeah, it's Department of Health.
this is the health, but the wastewater division,
Yeah.
Department of Health.
Okay,
But
Roger.
there's an incentive.
Yeah, so, sorry, Roger Babcock with the city. So yeah, that's a state initiative. The city is looking to is encouraging the state to continue that program and expand it. And currently looking at using some of our green fees that we're collecting to add that to their pot to continue that program. But it is a state program through the Department of Health. Thanks.
Thanks, Roger.
Yeah, that's, it should be directed, General Cafe is on the right headed, but they need the money, that's where it's at, and they should get the funding. Roger, thank you, and, Japa Kepa is, she's a true blue official for the Wai'anae Neighborhood Board. And the west side is a large area of Hawaiian homesteads that should be looked into and financially driven to give a state funding towards them, an incentive. So help Jama Kepa. She serves her community, okay?
Wai'anae Valley Homestead, not Neighborhood Board. Wai'anae Valley
Oh,
Homestead.
did I say,
Not Neighborhood Board.
not neighborhood bar, I'm sorry, did I say that? I brought that, she is the Hawaiian homestead, thank you for correction. But she's a true blue, leader on this thing. So help her out financially, get this incentive rolling, because a lot of people's homes is built on concrete and the cesspools is in the backyard. So to divert it to the front yard, it's gonna be incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
It just slips on that, all that.
Hey, we got another question. Oh, go ahead.
So, if the state's gonna do another 200, I highly recommend Wai'anae, Homestead. Make sure that 200 goes there first, and then you're gonna see how it goes. Then that be your #1 project, and see how that 200 for each, for the homesteaders in Wai'anae Homestead. Not anybody else, Wai'anae Homestead, let's do that first, because they've been waiting too long. And we're always on the the end of the bucket list, please, Marlo.
There's somebody online?
Question, what has ENV done to work with state legislature on these incentives?
Say that again.
This is a question for you, Roger. What has the EMV done to work with state legislature on this incentive?
Yeah, so first, I just want to clarify, the incentive would be for individual homeowners who own their property. So the project we're talking about tonight, of course, is a DHHL property. So that would be eligible for perhaps different, other funding that you're seeking. The incentive would be, that existed before. It was $4 or $5 million a few years ago. And so again, that's a state legislature thing, not a city thing. As I mentioned, the city does have is working on an MOA with the Department of Health through our Climate Change, Sustainability and Resilience Office to use some of the green fee monies that come to the city to essentially give to the Department of Health to continue their program. But that's still in the works, and I don't think it's as large as what the state did on their own before. But the city is committed to assisting with that effort. Again, it's for individuals.
Thank you. Are there any other comments online? And this is a very good meeting. Thank you, you guys, for tuning in and being engaged. Well, it's at the end of the meeting, and I was just wanting to let Jen close us out with some comments. So.
So I said most of what I wanted to say earlier, but I just want to mahalo all of our Wai'anae Valley Homestead families for staying engaged. We know that this has been a very long process and it continues to be a long process. So I just want to mahalo all of you for staying engaged and coming to our meetings and bringing a lot of these questions up and, advocating for money for us. We're very, very thankful for all of that. But I also wanted to mahalo Ted Johns with Hawaii Rural Water, because he was the one that actually initiated us to go ahead and go for the EPA technical assistance. So I wanted to give credit to Hawaii Rural Water and Ted Johns. He did have meetings that, he hosted for us, and he really kept on me and saying, you have to go for this technical assistance. It's gonna help you folks. It's gonna help you folks. So I just wanted to mahalo him.
You might have our meeting.
Oh yeah, tomorrow we have our Wai'anae Valley Homestead Community Association general meeting, and it's gonna be held at Albany Park at 7 p.m. So if any of you are interested, please come out. We're looking for a lot of committee members and event planners and everything in between.
So we have handouts. Please don't let us have to bring it back home. We also have, you guys have the individual maps, but we have the large size maps, I think 3 of them. If you have a place where you can display it, that other people can see it and ask questions like, what is that? Then please take one of them and post it. And please take handouts so that you can share with your neighbors and friends and family, okay? Anything else? Yeah, okay. I don't know.
Very quick. Oh, yeah.
It's a great opportunity for us to sorry.
Al Guzman, I was just reiterating what you said, 90 days to connect when sewer is available? From what date? From when the construction comes or from years ago? When, I don't know, yeah.
Yes, it's from when it's constructed and inspected after it's built.
Okay, all
After it's
right,
been accepted.
90 days, yeah, all right, I
But
just,
it has to be enforced.
yeah,
It doesn't just, it's not just gonna happen automatically.
right.
So you're not behind right now.
Yeah, but never approach my house, yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? Right on, you guys. Mahalo. Mahalo for coming. Mahalo for your attention. I wanna know what the small round things are.
Result, as far as the sword.